All right, so we're going to be factoring a trinomial. And this is probably a harder thing for some of you guys to be able to do. So, what we're going to be doing is the other day we were doing FOIL to make this. Now we have to kind of undo it, the trinomial, and we're going to be making them into the FOIL pieces. So we're going to be factoring the trinomial in a thing called x squared plus bx plus c format. So we look at how we can split this x squared. So each of these are going to get an x. And then we have to ask ourselves, what makes positive numbers? So to make a positive number, it's either a positive times a positive or a negative times a negative. So we look at the center term that says positive. So that means we're going to have a plus sign here and a plus sign here. We call this product sum. We have to figure out what multiplies to make 32. What times what gives you 32? That gives you the sum of 12. So we start thinking about what makes 32. So like 16 times 2. But that, when we add those, it doesn't give us 12. So we think of 8 times 4, and 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, that works. So our numbers are going to be an 8 and a 4. It doesn't matter if we put the 4 here or the 8 here. So this is our answer. So here we split the x, and we have to think of what times what gives us 63 by multiplication. That gives us the sum of 24. So we look, and that's a positive. So that's either two positives or two negatives to make that. So that shows us a positive. So that means we have to put two plus signs here. And then we think of what makes 63. So 9 times 7 is 63, but 9 plus 7 is not 24. And then we think of 21 times 3. That makes 63, and that adds up to 24. So we're going to use a 21 and a 3. Okay, so it's kind of an easier thing when they're both plus signs, because this is a positive, and what makes positive is two positives or two negatives. So here we have a positive, but in the center we have a negative. So what makes a positive? A positive times a positive, or a negative times a negative. The center term says it's negative, so that means we're going to have an x minus and an x minus. Now it's treated the same way, so we have to say what times what times what gives us 27, that adds to 12. So what makes 27? My first thing I think of is 9 times 3. So let's see, 9, 10, 11, 12. That makes it. So we're going to have a negative 9 and a negative 3. Now, some of you are looking at this going, I don't know why we're doing this. Well, if I were to FOIL this, there's my x squared, there's my negative 9x, there's my negative 3x, and a negative 9x. I'll just put it right here, negative 9x, and the negative 3x makes that negative 12x, and negative 9 times negative 3 makes that positive 27. Okay, so looking at another one, we split our x's. It's a positive, so it's either two positives or two negatives. That says it's going to be two negatives. What makes 6? That gives us 5 by addition. So we have a 6 times a 1, but when we add those, it gives us 7. So a 3 times a 2, that adds to 5. So there's a 3 and there's a 2. If we were to FOIL this or use the box method, we would get that answer. So you can always check it that way. Now, this is the harder one. See how the back sign is a negative? What makes a negative is a positive times a negative. So when we have an x and an x, we have one of each sign. But when we have one of each sign, we are no longer we multiply to get 32, but we subtract to get 4. So we think of what times what gives you 32. Well, we can look back to our top that we had, and we said 16 times 2 and 8 times 4. Now, those make 32, but we have to subtract them because they're different signs. So that means we have to find the difference. So which one of these gives us a difference of 4? The 8 and the 4 give us a difference of 4. Now, see how the sign in the middle is a negative. So that means the bigger digit has to be negative. So the 8 has to be negative and the 4 has to be positive, because when we do this math right here, we get a positive 4x and a negative 8x, and those two together will make a negative 4x. So that's where we're getting that terminology from of which one has to be bigger. So now looking at this last one, we have an x and an x. This is a negative. So what makes a negative is a positive and a negative. So I'm just going to put one of each sign. What makes 24? That gives us a difference. So what by multiplication gives us 5 by subtraction? So we have 6 times 4 gives us 24, but 6 minus 4 does not give us 5. So then we can think of 8 times 3, 12 times 2. 12 times 2 gives us 24, but 12 take away 2 gives us 10. 8 times 3 gives us 24. When we subtract them, we get 5. That's perfect. And then we look at the center sign, and this center sign is a positive. So that means the bigger digit has to be positive in this case. So this multiplication stuff we're doing over here is kind of what we're doing in our heads. But this is just a quick check. Negative 3x, positive 8x. Do we get positive 5x in the outcome? Yes, that's the center, and a negative times the positive is the negative. So we know we did that right. That's just a quick little check on that. You might have to watch this video over again or slow it down, but this is just the beginning steps of factoring a trinomial. If you have me as a teacher in class, you've already seen this. And as always, this is Miss Bobby, and I heart math. Diet Coke and CrossFit.